Show in South Africa, where local media is reporting that a high-level meeting involving top banking executives and the country's finance minister over potential U.S. sanctions is taking place, or rather took place. Now, Sowetan, which is a daily newspaper, said that their conversation focused on an American bill that, of course, is targeting African National Congress leaders over South Africa's ties with Russia and China. The report indicated fears of restrictions on South Africa's access to the SWIFT interbank payment network, a move that could cripple the country's economy. Now, while the South African Treasury engages its counterparts in the U.S. to ease these tensions, local banks are now bracing for the impact. Of course, tensions with the U.S. have escalated since January, with the Trump administration challenging South Africa over much of its domestic and foreign policies. South Africa's top banking executives and Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana have held discussions on the potential fallout if Washington were to impose sanctions on the country. That is according to a report by Sowetan on Monday. The talks, which took place at a recent Banking Association of South Africa board meeting, reportedly centered on those concerns that, of course, U.S. lawmakers are advancing that bill. Well, let's move on now to get more details on this. We're now joined by Sandile Swana, a governance expert and also a political analyst. Great to have you on the show with us. Now, of course, we have seen SWIFT sanctions devastate other economies around the world. Countries like Russia and Iran have reported devastating impacts to their GDPs. South Africa's economy, on the other hand, is a little bit more diversified. So give us a sense of just how vulnerable you think South Africa is to these sanctions.
Thank you so much. The first thing is that when you read the bill itself, it's certainly quite narrowly focused on certain leaders of the African National Congress. So it's not sanctions that would affect the nation as a whole. Number two, you are quite correct in saying that our economy is diversified. I mean, some of our bankers that you've referenced here actually reported in the past 10 days that they haven't seen much impact of even the trade war itself on the banking accounts of their clients, who are doing international trade. And what is diversified is that actually, if you aggregate the European Union is our second largest trade partner. Number one is China, number three is the US. And the US is actually quite a small portion of our international trade. So there are certain aspects of that. There are certain regions that will be affected: the Cape, the Western Cape, the Eastern Cape, and the Northern Cape. But broadly, the South African economy is largely immune from this.
But what happens going forward if we do see those sanctions kick in and we do see South Africa sort of kicked out of that SWIFT system? Do you think that there is legitimate worry, given that we're seeing leaders meeting today? And also, I'd like to get a sense of whether you think there is enough to cushion the country in terms of the deals it has with regional blocs like the AfCFTA.
What has been said in a number of sectors, what the reports we've got from Trade and Industry, our Department of Trade and Industry, barring the sanctions, let's just talk about the tariff wars that have been going on, is that by and large, those issues are largely catered for in terms of the risk diversification. So the issue of the SWIFT system is a remote risk at this point in time. It's not something that can happen. However, if it were to happen, it is not as if there are no alternatives entirely.
Right.